Released in 1971, A Clockwork Orange tells the story of a scary dystopian world where Malcolm McDowell plays Alex DeLarge, a juvenile street thug whose life consists of milk, Beethoven, and ultra-violence. However, Alex's brutal ways catches up with him where he finds himself in a maximum security prison, where he volunteers himself for a mind re-education program where he is brutally conditioned to be repulsed by violence. However, when released back into society, Alex, the once violent youth, struggles to fit back into a world that's now equally violent towards him, in this strange and controversial masterpiece by Stanley Kubrick.
So fear not thou, fellow droogs, as we get our guzzy wats around 10 things that you didn't know about A Clockwork Orange. Let's check it out. Yeah, I guess you could say I was being an Australian droog. What a combination.
Number 10, based on a book. British writer Anthony Burgess wrote A Clockwork Orange, which was published as a novel in 1962. Like the movie, it is narrated by a violent youth called Alex, who speaks through a slang language called Nadsat, which is a mixture of Russian and London Cockney. And like the book, the main character gets thrown into jail, where he then goes for an experimental mind control system in order to re-educate him back into society. So this leaves the big question, what does the title mean? What exactly is A Clockwork Orange? Well, in the book, the manuscript the old man is typing before the Droogs attack his home was called A Clockwork Orange. But Burgess claims that it's a word that he heard in a London pub during World War II, which basically means a person full of vibrance whom is like a wind-up mechanical toy at the hands of either a god or a devil. So yeah, everyone got that? There are several differences between the book and movie. For example, in the book, Alex gets chosen for the treatment after he kills another inmate, whereas in the movie, he willfully volunteers. And in the movie, Alex is conditioned to be violently sick when he hears Beethoven, whereas in the book, it's all music that makes Alex sick. But the biggest difference is the lost chapter. The book ends with a chapter completely omitted from the movie, in which Alex catches up with one of his ex-fellow Droogs, who now leads a happy, peaceful life, to which Alex then decides to ditch the violence in favour of a normal, non-violent lifestyle. Not only was this ending cut from the movie, but American prints of the book as well, as it was felt that American readers wouldn't be interested in the more happy ending.
And the final chapter wouldn't be put back into the book until 1986.
Number 9, Andy Warhol already made a Clockwork Orange adaptation. Yes, before Stanley Kubrick's surreal masterpiece film adaptation of A Clockwork Orange, the even more surreal artist Andy Warhol already made his own adaptation of A Clockwork Orange, called Vinyl. Made in 1965, the black and white experimental film sees the journey of a character called Victor, who is this movie's Alex equivalent, who like Alex has a love for violent crime, who once caught by the police is given an ultimatum: either go to jail or a behavioural change program. Victor chooses the program, where his violent streak is cured, where like A Clockwork Orange he is strapped to a chair and forced to watch violent videos. However, in Vinyl, hot wax is also used in the program, as it drips onto his hand while watching the shocking videos. Although Vinyl isn't as well known as A Clockwork Orange, it still made it to the 1001 movies you must see before you die. Number 8, A Clockwork Orange was going to be a Rolling Stones movie. Before Stanley Kubrick got on board to make A Clockwork Orange movie, there was already an invested interest in seeing the story adapted for a cinematic release, to which it could have been a very different movie, as Rolling Stones frontman Mick Jagger wanted to make A Clockwork Orange with himself starring as Alex, along with his fellow Rolling Stones band members playing Alex's Droogs. Yeah, just imagine that. The Rolling Stones as the gang from A Clockwork Orange. Personally, I'm glad this didn't happen, as it would have been distracting, as viewers wouldn't be thinking, oh, look at these horrible little thugs, but instead saying, oh wow, look, it's the Rolling Stones. However, instead, Jagger starred in Performance, which, like A Clockwork Orange, is a strange, obscure movie about violent street thugs, and taboo for its time behaviours.
Yeah, I just can't see Mick Jagger as Alex. I'll keep waiting for him to start singing about how he can't get no satisfaction.
Number 7. Stanley Kubrick abandoned making a movie about Napoleon to make A Clockwork Orange. Stanley Kubrick originally had no ambition of making a movie adaptation of A Clockwork Orange. He was originally given a copy of the book while making Dr. Strangelove, but found it difficult to read due to the nadsat language used in the narration. After making the expensive science fiction spectacle 2001: A Space Odyssey, Kubrick was focusing on making a bioepic movie about Napoleon. However, apparently Kubrick's wife then persuaded him to look at the book again, and after a second reading, Kubrick was hooked and instantly excited about the plot and the characters, and even saw Alex as being something of a Richard III type character, where Kubrick, being the hands-on filmmaker that he was, would go on to direct, produce, and write the screenplay for the Clockwork Orange movie.
As for Kubrick's Napoleon movie, well, he went back to that movie's production, but due to a certain turn of events, he ended up making Barry Lyndon instead. But in a weird twist, Clockwork Orange's author, Anthony Burgess, would go on to write a book about Napoleon, which he dedicated to Kubrick. Man, isn't this world weird?
Number 6. The Thedroogs costume came from a love of cricket. Malcolm McDowell was always the first choice to play Alex because Kubrick saw him in a 1968 movie called If, where like A Clockwork Orange he played a troubled delinquent. And it was McDowell that influenced the Thedroogs' attire of white jumpsuits, braces and boots when he turned up for costume fittings while wearing cricket attire. It immediately struck a spark with Kubrick and costume designer Melina Canonero. It was decided to use the white cricket shirt McDowell was wearing and to work from there. And there is even a famous story that McDowell was even wearing a protective codpiece as part of his attire, to which Kubrick insisted he wear it on the outside, and hence the Thedroogs codpiece look. Not only that, but McDowell suffered a nasty injury while filming the scene in which his eyes were clamped open, as his cornea was sliced. Ouch. Well, I guess sometimes artists have to suffer for their art. Number 5. Filming locations. A Clockwork Orange had a massive budget drop since Kubrick's previous movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, which had a budget of $10 million compared to A Clockwork Orange's budget of $2 million. To accommodate for the small budget, most of the movie was filmed on locations around London, particularly ones that were close to Kubrick's London home. Alex's housing apartment was filmed at Thames Med Housing Estate in North London. The facility where Alex goes for his rehabilitation treatment was filmed at a university in Uxbridge, Greater London. The river where Alex attacks his fellow Thedroogs was filmed at Flat Block Marina in South London. The record store where Alex attends in the movie was a real-life bar in London, which, interestingly, has now been turned into a McDonald's. And the sinister-looking tunnel where Alex and his Droogs attacked the homeless man was filmed in a real-life tunnel at Trinity Road, Wandsworth, London.
Given that most of Kubrick's previous film, 2001: A Space Odyssey, was filmed on sets, it's interesting that his next movie was mostly filmed on location around early 1970s London.
Number 4. Alex's obsession to singing in the rain came from McDowell. The classic 1929 song Singing in the Rain is an important part of A Clockwork Orange. In fact, when most people hear the joyful lyrics and tune of Singing in the Rain, they may think of A Clockwork Orange before they even think of the more whimsical 1952 Gene Kelly musical. Well, the added use of Singing in the Rain came from none other than Malcolm McDowell himself, as McDowell improvised singing the Mary tune while filming the home invasion scene. Keep in mind, the Singing in the Rain song was not in the original novel. Nope. It was an addition purely added into the movie. And because the scene where Alex sings Singing in the Rain was proving to be a memorable moment in the movie, the song was even played in the movie's end credits, making Singing in the Rain a prominent part of A Clockwork Orange in general. And it all came from the improvisations of a certain Malcolm McDowell.
Also, despite the fact that Alex seems to have a love for Beethoven, most of the classical music played in A Clockwork Orange was by Rossini. Weird, huh?
Number 3. The alternative movie poster is a sight to be seen. We all know the simple but iconic A Clockwork Orange poster, in which Alex slashes his way through a pyramid-shaped A in the title A Clockwork Orange. In fact, this might be engraved into our minds as much as Alex's mind control programming. However, certain parts of the world had their own version of the poster, such as this more colourful one of a terrified Alex wearing the eye-opening device with a giant orange behind him. Whoever put this poster together really took the orange part of the movie's title quite seriously. The interesting thing is that the main poster shows Alex in complete control, while looking confident, whereas this alternative one shows Alex in a state of mercy and despair. Two complete opposites. I think this one is more visually pleasing, and certainly looks more manic and terrifying, but doesn't really represent the movie as well as the more well-known one. For example, the use of the enthusiastic blue glow surrounding the orange, making it look as though it's in flight. Interestingly, some of the original soundtrack covers featured Beethoven in Alex's place, holding a glass of milk, which is pretty cool. Number 2, deleted scenes. Despite being given an X rating, A Clockwork Orange still had to have some scenes either cut or trimmed on the account of being unsuitable or for timing purposes. To which over the years several still pictures of lost scenes have turned up. It's reported that Kubrick destroyed the deleted scenes, which is a shame as they would be fascinating to see now, for just curiosity's sake. Scenes that were cut show the Thedroogs hassling yet another old man who seems to be wearing a cowboy hat, who then grabs Alex in a pleading gesture. And another one which sees the Thedroogs overlooking some old women drinking tea, without it being clear what the Thedroogs' motivation was. Well, without seeing the scene at least. It's finding little lost gems like this that add mystery to some of our favourite well-known movies, and adds more intrigue.
I like to think that the scenes aren't destroyed like popular rumour says, and that they are waiting to be discovered in some Stanley Kubrick vault somewhere.
And before we get to number 1, here are some bonus facts. Bonus number 1, A Clockwork Orange stars Darth Vader. When Alex returns to the elderly man's home, we see a bodybuilder also resides there, who assists the old man's revenge against Alex. This strong-looking man was played by a young David Prowse, aka the guy who would go on to play Darth Vader in the original Star Wars trilogy. Not his voice though, just his physical form. And if you see the documentary I Am Your Father, you'll see just what a nice, genuine guy Prowse seems to be, and he remembers his time on A Clockwork Orange and with Stanley Kubrick fondly. Bonus number 2, Alex was an influence for the Joker. One of the greatest modern movie villains without a doubt is Heath Ledger's haunting yet captivating performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight. Well, for this role, Ledger took inspiration from Alex from A Clockwork Orange when it came to discovering who his Joker was. Yep, A Clockwork Orange helped shape one of the greatest movie villains of all time. And that's not the only connection A Clockwork Orange has to Batman, as in the 1997 awful movie Batman and Robin, in one scene you can see some Thedroogs, or some Droog-inspired gang, in the background. Bonus number 3, a Doctor Who serial had a very similar plot. Coincidentally, in 1971, the very year that A Clockwork Orange came out, a Doctor Who serial was also broadcast called The Mind of Evil, which actually has a very similar plot to A Clockwork Orange, in which the government is using mind control methods to brainwash criminals in prisons in order to cure them of their antisocial behaviour. Just like A Clockwork Orange, there are themes of the fight for free will, along with the fact that the method is seen in a sinister light. Number 1. Band. Despite its confronting and controversial subject matter, A Clockwork Orange was still a box office success, making $26.2 million in the box office. However, despite popular belief that the movie was banned in the UK due to how violent it was, isn't necessarily true, as the Clockwork Orange ban was imposed by none other than Stanley Kubrick himself. Now, the idea of a director banning his own movie may sound crazy, but when A Clockwork Orange was released in the UK, it was blamed for a string of real-life violent crimes that took place. And supposedly, Kubrick even received death threats over the movie. So feeling the heat over the movie's impact on the public consumption, Kubrick banned the movie in Britain and Ireland, with the movie not to be released until after his death. And of course, Kubrick died in 1999 while making Eyes Wide Shut, to which finally the movie was given a home media release. As at that time, the only way the movie could be viewed was via illegal bootleg copies. It was the same here in Australia too. The movie was completely unavailable until the year 2000 when it was released on VHS. For years I heard stories of this movie and really wanted to see it, to see if it was as strange and as full on as The Shining, but I couldn't find it anywhere. Just imagine a life with no A Clockwork Orange, with the movie not being accessible. Well, that was the case until the year 2000, as mentioned.
A Clockwork Orange isn't for everyone, but those who do resonate with the movie have a love for it, and it's been hailed as one of the greatest movies of all time. But even by today's standards, it's not an easy viewing and there are a few confronting moments. But if you're up for watching something more challenging and dark, then A Clockwork Orange is the strange trip waiting for you. Anyway, I'm Minty, and A Clockwork Orange is the type of movie that grabs you by the yarballs. See ya!